So we've been talking about everything that's happening between Candace Owens, the Turning Point USA, and France, and pretty much the entirety of everyone who's been observing and watching what happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and specifically the investigation. So Candace Owens has allegedly made some accusations. Our Turning Point USA feels like Candace Owens has made some accusations against them, and they finally got sick of it. So we've got a response from Turning Point USA, and they actually invited Candace Owens to come on their platform and finally talk this out. Will she do it? I think she will. We're going to hear what Candace Owens had to say about that in response. But one of the gentlemen who works for Turning Point USA, we're going to talk about him here in a second. His name is Blake. You could tell he was one of the most irritated ones involved in this entire Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens situation. And he came out and went on a 7-8 minute rant addressing a lot of the claims that Candace Owens made. And here's a part of and a little bit of the breakdown of what he said, and then we'll go back into the video. So he says this: Blake Neff listed off all of the conspiracy theories Candace Owens has promoted since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He says Candace Owens suggested that the Utah Valley University event was unusual, and its details suggested a quote inside job. I agree with that. We've seen the evidence of how things lined up doesn't make sense. Candace Owens claims that foreign aircraft have followed Erica Kirk around the country and that Turning Point has lied about this happening. Okay, we'll let them have that one. We'll see if it's true. Candace Owens has accused Turning Point USA of lying about Charlie wanting Erica to take over for him if he died. Is that true? We'll have to wait and see. Candace Owens suggested Charlie Kirk's security team internationally denied him first aid after the shooting to ensure that he died. Okay, I'm not buying that one. When we watched it play out live, even before this investigation was taking place, we saw what happened. I personally, working in the medical field for a significant amount of time, thought the way they handled the situation was strange and not really helpful. Granted, the way Charlie Kirk was shot and assassinated, there really wasn't much he could do. I believe he was dead when it happened within seconds. So again, I'll let him have that point. Candace Owens has raised suspicions about the head of our technical team because he took an SD card out of the camera. I think that's it's more than fair. You could debate it on both sides. Candace Owens has spread absurd claims about Tyler Bauer, I don't know his name, about Tyler, who we just had on the show, and we're not going to talk about the implications there. I'm not going to go into that. Candace Owens suggests that Turning Point USA's faith-affiliated pastors are a part of a military, quote, infiltration of Turning Point. Another wild claim. I'll give him that. Candace Owens said that Charlie's murder, quote, had to be approved by Charlie's friends, and then suggested those friends might have her murdered too for, quote, knowing the truth. Again, Candace Owens has shown proof in some ways about things going on behind the scene that Turning Point USA hasn't been honest about. So again, who are we going to believe here? Who has the receipts? Who has the proof? Candace Owens has made other strange allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, potential underground assassinations traveling through unseen tunnels. What? At one point in early November, Candace Owens started wildly throwing suspicions on member of Utah Valley soccer team for wearing hoodies. I don't remember that part. And then he says, my friends have had to endure the harassment from people who have gotten whipped up by Candace and what she's saying. In fact, I would have to say we have suffered more harassment than those we have suffered from Antifa supporters who overtly celebrate Charlie's murder. Yo, that's just straight disrespectful. Let's go ahead and see what this man has to say. Blake Neff said this, and we'll play the video. For the past 3 months, we've received a flood of questions about Candace and her claims attacking Charlie's closest friends. For 3 months, we've preferred to remain silent, but the attacks have not stopped. Today, I delivered this response. All right, let's go ahead and hear what Blake has to say, and y'all let me know if you're feeling what he's saying or if you think it's more BS from Turning Point. Here we go.
We wanted to use this segment at the top of this hour to say something important, something very important. For the past 2.5 months, there is a topic that has flooded our Freedom inbox. It has been nonstop on social media, but which we have almost totally avoided on this show. You probably already know what I'm talking about, which shows just how ubiquitous it has been. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for this show. She's made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She has suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. She has suggested Michael is not his real name. It is, I have seen his birth certificate myself. She has called it suspicious that Mikey's wife, who works at Turning Point, helped plan the campus tour event where Charlie was murdered, which she didn't, by the way. She doesn't work on campus events. Candace has suggested the Utah Valley University event was unusual and its details suggested a, quote, inside job. She has claimed that foreign aircraft have followed Erica Kirk around the country and that Turning Point has lied about this happening. She has accused us of lying about Charlie wanting Erica to take over for him if he died. She has suggested Charlie's security team intentionally denied him first aid after the shooting to ensure that he died. She has raised suspicions about the head of our technical team because he took an SD card out of a camera. She has spread absurd claims that Tyler Boyer, who we just had on the show, sexually abuses male interns.
Joe.
She has suggested that tpusa faith-affiliated pastors, like theologian Frank Turek, who we'll have on in a moment, and Pastor Rob McCoy, are part of a military, quote, infiltration of Turning Point, either because they are veterans or because they have family members who are. Even if not everyone has been named specifically, though, Candace has effectively tarred everyone here with complicity in Charlie's death by repeatedly saying he was, quote, betrayed by, quote, everyone. She has said Charlie's murder, quote, had to be approved by Charlie's friends, and then suggested those friends might have her murdered too for, quote, knowing the truth. She has made claims of financial impropriety and fraud at Turning Point, adding up into the millions of dollars, which, again, is not true. Charlie made sure the organization was audited by a third party every year. He personally reviewed and he signed off on every expense report, and literally every single bill paid by the organization down to a single United States dollar.
Well, okay, if that's true, then why was Charlie wanting to implement a Doge-like section of Turning Point to figure out where the money was going and why, and how the money was going out and where it was going?
We have never missed a 990 deadline. Candace has made other stranger allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, and potential underground assassins traveling through unseen tunnels. At one point in early November, she started wildly throwing suspicion on members of Utah Valley's soccer team for wearing hoodies. I could go on. There is always something new coming up, and none of it ever pans out because from the start, there has been nothing there. The attacks and allegations from Candace are either lies or they are innuendos thrown around with a total reckless disregard for the truth so that Candace can manipulate and string along an audience of people who don't realize they are being played. Instead of being able to grieve properly after one of the most heinous murders in American history, a murder many of us had to witness, my friends have had to endure harassment from people who have gotten whipped up by what Candace is saying. In fact, I would say we have suffered more harassment from these people than we have from Antifa supporters who overtly celebrate Charlie's murder. And just like a lot of those Antifa members, many of these people take this delight in how gross and unpleasant they can be.
No. People want the truth. I disagree with that, Blake. People want the truth. None of this makes sense. And we're looking for answers. FBI is not going to give us answers. So we're going to look to you guys. Y'all were close to Charlie. A lot of what you're saying still isn't making sense, even just in this short 3 minutes. So again, something's not adding up. Somebody needs to give answers. And if we can't get it from the federal government, we're going to ask y'all. I don't think there's a problem with that. And if you want to call it harassment, because we're asking, why isn't this adding up? Why isn't this making sense? Y'all want us to support and not ask any questions. You want us to continue Charlie's legacy and just move on from it and grieve. I don't think that's fair.
What our friends have had to endure is not funny, and it's not insignificant. It is evil. I have seen it. For months, we have received hundreds, thousands, I suspect, emails and calls asking us to respond. People have wanted us to invite Candace on the show. But for a long time, our approach was to say nothing. We did that for several reasons. First, we thought that her prevarications were so absurd that nobody would believe them. We shouldn't have to answer questions about secret tunnels or Egyptian Air Force planes. That sort of thing is just, it's beneath contempt to respond to. The second reason we've said so little, though, is because there's a good rule of thumb, which Charlie followed. Do not feed the trolls. Focus on the mission. Reviving America. Uplifting young people.
I say this all the time. I say this every day. Amy knows. Don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. If there's nothing there, just move on. Let it go. Once it gets to a certain level, yes, you can address it. Yes, you can speak on it. But even Charlie Kirk's differences with Candace Owens, he didn't want to speak on publicly that much while he was still alive. When asked about Candace Owens and what she felt about this, what he said about that, Charlie Kirk would say, just listen, man. Candace is a good friend of mine. We don't agree on everything. What Candace does, and the truth will come to light. Why doesn't Turning Point just take that? They keep feeding Candace. If you think she's this much of a troll, why do you keep feeding this? Just let it go. Put out a statement. Say, hey, we're working with the FBI. We're going to wait and see what happens with the trial. All the accusations, all the conspiracy theories, everything that's coming out. You guys take that for what you will. Candace is going Candace, and we'll keep it moving. It doesn't make sense. And the reason they're having to respond is because Candace is bringing up receipts. She's bringing up the receipts. She's talking about her friend Charlie, saying, hey, Charlie said that he was tired of the pressure from a certain community and they were pulling donations because of some of the things that he was saying. Doesn't make sense.
Making heaven crowded. Don't give air to people who want to tear you down and sow discord. Lastly, we didn't respond because Charlie always viewed Candace as a friend, and we were holding out hope that she would return that friendship and stop what she was doing. But a week from now, it's going to be 3 months since Charlie's murder. Candace has not changed her behavior. She has continued to spread falsehoods about Charlie's friends.
Yo, this whole be a friend thing is kind of pissing me off. How can on one hand we say we're not going to tell people how they should grieve, and then on the other hand you're going to say be a friend, Candace? Shut up. Don't ask any questions. Don't point out the fact that everywhere these Egyptian planes were going, Erica Kirk or Charlie Kirk happened to be there. Don't point out basic Googleable, if that's a word, facts. Just Candace, just shut up. Be a friend. Grieve him. Let him die. Don't worry about it. That is one of the most gaslighting statements I've ever heard. We were hoping Candace would be a friend to Charlie. What about the search for the truth, guys?
And she continues to concoct new ones about new people. She's using these falsehoods to enrich herself while dividing the conservative movement at an absolutely critical time for this country. And far too often, we here have heard from ordinary people who loved Charlie and who Charlie loved so much in return. These people have expressed the worry that we are staying silent out of cowardice or as some sort of tacit admission that some of the attacks are true. Neither is the case. Our silence has never been, and it will never be, equal to complacency or approval.
This is so weak.
Still, we decided Charlie would not allow this to go on. Charlie was not a coward. Charlie was a fighter. Charlie would not allow someone to spread lies about the people closest to him with impunity. And he would feel ashamed if other people were stepping up to defend his friends while he never did so himself. Candace has mentioned several times that the ball is in our court. So here's what is going to happen. In the near future, there will be a live stream here in Phoenix where we address in a clear and comprehensive way the claims and accusations, the false accusations that have been made against Charlie's family, friends, and the people here at Turning Point. We plan to walk through everything carefully and thoroughly. If Candace is available, we would sincerely welcome her participation in that live stream at our studio here in Phoenix. At this point, we believe the ball is back in her court. Our motivation for doing this is not out of any obligation to Candace. It is about honoring Charlie. We feel a deep responsibility to protect his legacy, his work, and the truth. I feel that. I owe Charlie everything in my life. I feel it immensely. And that is why we feel compelled to speak clearly and openly now. We'll have more on this in the near future.
What do y'all feel about this response, man? I'm not feeling this at all. I thought this was weak. And the problem with Turning Point is either ignore it and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go through the investigation and give the FBI and the law enforcement all the information they need to be involved. Conspiracy theories can be what they are, and not selectively deciding what you want to respond to. Even in this, they didn't talk about Doge. They didn't talk about the text messages in the group chat. They didn't talk about the accuracy of what we're seeing from the planes that was reported. We talked about here on the channel. Don't pick and choose what you're going to address and then say, oh, we've stayed silent. No, you guys haven't stayed silent. You stayed silent on the things that you didn't want to talk about, but not as a whole. This is BS. Y'all know, if you haven't seen this yet, I want you to let me know in the chat. What do you think Candace Owens is going to say to this? Do you think she's going to back down? Do you think Candace Owens is going to respond and say, sure, I'll come on the show? We're going to talk about it here in a second. Because they are giving Candace Owens exactly what she wants. An opportunity to expose the truth. And seeing how this platform is run, if they do actually allow Candace Owens to come up there, boy, oh boy, this is going to be rough for Turning Point USA, because even in this 7-8 minute statement that they said, they were not able to address every single point that Candace Owens made. They only addressed the ones that may be a little bit iffy. They talked about soccer and green hoodies, which I'd never even heard before, while leaving out other things. Candace Owens had a response to this, and here's what she had to say about their invitation to speak.
Candace has mentioned several times that the ball is in our court. So here's what is going to happen. In the near future, there will be a live stream here in Phoenix where we address in a clear and comprehensive way the claims and accusations, the false accusations that have been made against Charlie's family, friends, and the people here at Turning Point. We plan to walk through everything carefully and thoroughly. If Candace is available, we would sincerely welcome her participation in that live stream at our studio here in Phoenix. At this point, we believe the ball is back in her court. Our motivation for doing this is not out of any obligation to Candace. It is about honoring Charlie. We feel a deep responsibility to protect his legacy, his work, and the truth. I feel that. I owe Charlie everything in my life. I feel it immensely. And that is why we feel compelled to speak clearly and openly now. We'll have more on this in the near future.
Yay! Finally, you didn't have to get through all that shade that you were throwing me to get to the point that you were willing to answer questions. I'm the right person to sit across from you and to ask you questions, right? Some things that you told me on that day, they're not adding up. I think the entire world would like to see this discussion. You can pick the place. You can pick the time. I say we do it tomorrow. We don't need to plan for this. We don't need lawyers in between us, lawyer statements. It's not how I roll, okay? I don't care about any of that. I want it to be authentic. Like I said, you can take the money. We can raise money live for this conversation. That is how badly the world is demanding it.
I agree.
So I accept it. With whistles and bells, everything, I fully accept. I say, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. And my only ground rule is no assassinations. Okay? No assassinations, no funny business. You can't pretend you're going to do it and then Candace died in a mysterious accident. Okay?
Jeez. Hey, shout out to Candace. She said, let's do it tomorrow. You want to have a conversation? Let's talk. That's what Charlie did. He was up here talking. Let's have a conversation. Let's do it. I want to hear this. I want to hear the answers to the questions that a lot of us are asking in the chat. On one hand, you're saying turning point to shut up, while at the same time you have to explain. So it's dang if they do, dang if they don't. I hate that this is overshadowing the death of Charlie. I agree. I hate that this would become about Candace Owens versus Turning Point. And my point with Turning Point is, if you want to focus on continuing Charlie Kirk's legacy, again, it would have been simple. We get that Candace Owens is grieving the way she's grieving. She was close to Charlie Kirk, and a lot of things don't make sense right now. We're not the federal government. We're not the FBI. We're not local law enforcement. We are going to let them handle that investigation. Any accusations, any claims that are made, anything that's pointed out about what happened before, during, and after Charlie Kirk's assassination, it will come out and it will be shown in court. It will be shown in the prosecution of Tyler Robinson. Other than that, here at Turning Point, we're out of it. We're going to continue to focus on continuing Charlie Kirk's legacy. And that's what's important to us right now. Simple. Leave it at that. We're done. We're moving on. We're carrying on with Turning Point USA. Candace Owens can handle and speculate and have the conspiracy theories that she wants to have, and leave it at that. But don't just selectively say, oh, we'll respond to this, but oh, we won't respond to that. Don't respond to this. Oh, we won't respond to that part. Like, we can see what's happening here. And if you want us to leave it for trial, we'll leave it for trial, and we'll find out and see what the federal government and what the state of Utah gives us in that. But again, Candace Owens, she's allowed to speak on this and say what she needs to say and say what she feels and how she is finding and researching what's been done to her friend. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments.